When you see value in all directions, you add value in all directions. Accenture. Let there be change.
Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the MIT Labyrinth. Congratulations, you passed the test. You got here, and you got a seat, most of you anyway. My name's Wayne Eckerson. I'm the track producer. I run a research and consulting group here in Boston focused on data analytics. We're really looking forward to this session. And without further ado, well, actually, one thing. You got here, and you got a seat, most of you anyway. We get a little feedback up here. Is that me? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. If you do have questions, we need to give you the mic because we're recording this, and also there's a virtual audience. So raise your hand and we'll get the mic to you, okay? Without further ado, pass it over to Sanjeev Vohra of Accenture.
Hi, hello everyone. I know that some people are trying to find seats, so please adjust yourself. Maybe somebody can help you get more seats as well. We were definitely expecting a bigger room today, but that's okay. I think we can manage in this and have an interesting conversation with Francesco. So, why don't I start? I am Sanjeev Vohra. For the people who don't know me, I think I was in a keynote address yesterday, just sharing the AI maturity report that we conducted recently. But I lead Applied Intelligence business for Accenture, which is about data analytics, automation, and artificial intelligence. And what we do is we actually, in our business, we serve large clients and large companies, enterprises largely, to help them generate value from providing them solutions which can help them either solve bigger challenges or create new opportunities for them, right? So that's the consulting business we have. A lot of consulting nowadays happens on the back of a huge technology, as you can appreciate, because that shift has already happened over the last couple of decades. And we have a very large practice in this space around AI and data analytics, right? So we have been working, at least I have known Francesco. Francesco is a group CIO of Walgreens and Boots Alliance. It's a $130 billion plus company. Mm-hmm. So it's and Francesco reports to the CEO of Walgreens, Ross Brewer, and part of the executive team there. And I happen to know him since last 15 months of association, and I came to know him from a very difficult conversation, my first conversation with him, when we were doing a large scale, and we'll talk about that, don't worry, today. We are doing multiple work for Francesco and the team, but one of the areas that was very critical for us to do was to help them in data-led transformation, which means how can we actually exploit the value of data, which Walgreens has with them, on the consumer, on a lot of other data that they can have, but all the data that they are acquiring as well, to make sure that we can generate, or partnering with other people to generate value for their consumers. And they're on the journey for understanding their consumers' requirements of the future and addressing them properly, right? So that was the whole discussion we had earlier. So we are doing a big work for them, and as a part of that, we have started knowing each other and started working together over the last few years, and it's been a great journey. So we wanted to obviously invite Francesco here so that we can have a good conversation. And let me just kick in, and then we can make it interactive. We believe that we can have some small conversation between us, but we'll have some time for interaction. So we'll open up the house for some comments from your side or some questions, and then land the ship finally and wrap up.
Yeah.
So Francesco, I just wanted to ask you, to start with, you had an extensive years of experience in your life in managing IT system applications, data, security, right? And you had done so much of work in P&G, and then large portion of your career was in, Kraft Foods and Kraft Heinz. And then you joined Walgreens 3 years back, right? So I just wanted to start from there, saying, what made you join Walgreens, and how has been your last 3 years?
Okay. So first of all, good morning, everybody, and thanks for attending. So, and thanks, Sanjay, for having me. So to exchange a little bit the experience and the commitment to tell you the good, but also the bad. So, and all the scars that we have in this journey. So why Walgreens Boots Alliance? So my career has been always in CPG, as you said. I was in Procter & Gamble, then in Kraft Foods, then Kraft & Heinz. So I think that I've seen a lot about CPG. And there was an interest also in terms of saying, in CPG, you are, first of all, you have a connection with what we call the consumer, but the reality is that you always work through the customer, so the retail, the wholesaler, and so on. And there is always this connection that never goes all in. I was very excited when I got the opportunity for WBA for a couple of reasons. The first one was definitely WBA was at the beginning of a massive transformation where we were saying we were moving from just a traditional brick and mortars into becoming truly omnichannel. So this vision of having the customer in the middle and make sure that we have a seamless experience across all the different channels. And with 13,000 locations across the world, you can imagine that how we really make sure that we are strong physical presence, but as well also a very, very, very strong digital experience. The second, it was that for people that are in CPG, you realize that access to data, first-party data, is really gold. How really you know the customer, you know the consumer, you have everything possible, and you work with the customer really to get access to point of sales. Having the possibility to really go in a company that has 100 million consumer, loyalty consumer, and we have history across all of them, and we have such an incredible amount of first party of data. I think it's known first party of data. I think it's is an incredible opportunity. And so these two things together says, okay, let's go to another area where probably I can build them the experience that I have, but really to have an acceleration on what I can create there.
Good, and I think I just I was sharing with you about the research that we did recently, and one of the things which came out there was very clearly that 83% of the companies who are really achievers, who are able to exploit, or let's say who are able to create a foundation for data at enterprise level and able to create the use cases for the business, both, right? And we call them achievers, and we found in this research that 12% of the companies are falling in that bracket out of the 1,600 surveys that we did last year. And just wanted to ask you the perspective. And we've also found out that 83%, roughly 80+% of these companies have a CEO sponsorship and a business sponsorship from the top to generate that integration between the business strategy and what's happening on the data and AI side of the world, analytics side of the world, right? Because it's had to be connected somewhere. So I just wanted to ask your perspective on that as well, saying that how is it in Walgreens in terms of the shift that you mentioned about consumer behavior and what is the business strategy around that in terms of the market dynamics and changing dynamics as well. But how is your data and AI analytics strategies attached to that? I mean, can you throw some light on that?
Yeah. So I feel the first point that you touch is extremely important. So you cannot have a AI strategy, technical strategy that is disconnect from the business strategy. Everything started from the business strategy. I think one of the key shifts that we did in our strategy was we were really working before and more into, as I said, being brick and mortar and a digital experience, totally separate. And one of the key focus was we really wanted to put the customer at the center. So the center is the customer. We want to start thinking and change terminology in terms of, say, I need to know the customer. I need to talk in terms of customer journey, customer experience, define the customer experience, what I want the customer to be when he's interacting with Walgreens or with Boots across all channels. If you call a call center, if you are in the store, if you are in the website, if you are in the mobile app, I want to make sure that you as a customer are identified and we give you a seamless experience across all the different channels. That is really the vision and the starting point. So I start building solutions that are specific for you. To do that, the foundation is really the data. So a company like us has incredible amount of data, but by channel. So you as a customer, you are a Sanjeev because you are a Sanjeev for a call center. Probably you have Vohra because you are in the mobile app. In the pharmacy, you have Mr. Sanjeev Vohra. And so the key focus was, and the work that we have done together, is that how we start building the data and we create all the data in a single data lake that will allow us really to say, I have now all the information clean. And I would say that this has been one of the reason why we had the interesting meeting 15 months ago, because it was definitely an incredible journey. You have a company that built this massive data warehouse, built in terms of 20 year plus, frankly also without any governance from IT many times. So you have the scope of what we believe was such a small one, and then we discovered that there were business stable and even applications that were built on top of it. So the program and the consolidation, I think, was a massive change and a massive endeavor. And I would say now we are in a much, much better situation, so that I would say that we have done an incredible cleaning and we have consolidated all the data in the cloud in Azure. So that is the first part, because you can have an incredible asset, which is the data, but if they are not curated, there is nothing we can do about it. The second one, that now how we can make sure that AI and machine learning are really part of in the way we operate. Is not really something that we do after the fact, but is the beginning of the strategy. And I think it has been quite difficult to get to that point. Because the reality is that you clean the data, check, you have the technology, all the different tools that we have in the market and so on, then you build the organization with the data scientist, and even if you have all these pieces together, there is a big one, which is the culture and the shift in mindset. It's not easy in the organization to go and say, now you need to trust the machine. It's not easy when you have a person that is doing forecasting and replenishment, which is his job, and he believes that he knows everything, and you say, now I have a machine that is doing it for you, or an algorithm actually. But it's even more difficult when you go to a pharmacist and you say, well, now all the checks that you do in the pharmacist, because you believe that the pharmacy is just giving you the pills, but behind there is much more science. And that I discovered it as well. So the pharmacist has to make check that he is looking at all profile, has to check in all potential pathologies that you have, all the different allergy, all the different prescription that you have, all the different combination. And then he has to really check if there are potential issues for your safety, health, and then also if there are potential even in terms of lowering the care, if there are other brands. So all this part is what is called in DUR. And to replace that kind of brain of a pharmacist with artificial intelligence, I think, has been a big challenge, because you take years of experience, but also then you say, do you trust? And there is also regulation that you need to have to make sure that you can have the possibility of still have a supervision of pharmacists, because this is a very regulated environment. So, but the cultural aspect has been one of the most complex as well.
This helps me. I'm kind of tempted to ask a question, but let me, before I ask that question, I want to ask you, in the journey, like in the last 3 years of journey, if you have to just qualify, what are the top 3 lessons or challenges that you faced in this program? That will be great to just get your perspective, because it's not been simple. It's been quite complex in terms of what has been achieved, but the achievement is great. But I think it's on a cost of a lot of hard work and effort, which was not let me say, was underestimated initially, right? In terms of how much work will be required. So, any comments on that will be useful.
Yeah. So, if many of you that are working in companies and you get a presentation from Accenture, but not necessarily Accenture, any other, they will bring you a chart that says the journey of analytics. And the journey of analytics starts with reporting, KPI, score, predictive, prescriptive, action-oriented, blah, 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 is a famous. So, and the key conversation of this slide seems to say that I need to have all the pieces in place before I go to the last one. And in a company like us, then it means for me that basically I will never do that. Because it's going to take 5 to 6 years even to clean all the stuff that I have. 20 years of history. So that cleaning, just to give a sense, when we made the move, we had 120,000 business table that we have to move. 120,000, we cleaned them and we moved 3,000. But it took us 6 months to clean. So if you start thinking that you need to go perfect with all the foundation, all the KPI, all the report, the data governance before touching AI, I think then it's probably you are pushing to never, because you will never be perfect. So I think one of the lessons learned that we had was how do we make sure that we work in parallel across all the dimensions, which is creating an incredible complexity to my organization, frankly, and also to our partner. Because you need to make sure that you clean the table, but also you start building on prototype and so on. So I think that is the first lesson learned. The second one that I think is extremely important is that it's cool AI. Every CEO is going to read about AI. Every CFO is going to read about AI. And they will say, yes, let's do something. Then when you go and say, let's invest, it's very difficult for them to grasp then what it is and what you are doing. Because there is many times there is always a thinking about you make a program. You make a project, the project starts tomorrow and finish after 3 months. Here you talk about use case, and then you say, hey, but this is start, you never finish because you have a product, which is really the mindset shift in moving from project to product. And I think it's very important then that you need to identify a few areas where you say, let's try to make a difference and to bring tangible benefits, and you start getting really advocate in the business function that is going to come to you and say, this is the benefits, and you create a snowball effect. And the third one, frankly, and now I'm not saying this because Accenture is here, but it's important that you have a trusted partner to work with. And the trusted partner, for us, has been not necessarily just a system integrator like Accenture, but many times as well also a technology partner. So namely, it could be, in our case, Microsoft, because we are an Azure shop. But if you are in the cloud, you need to have a very strong technology partner there. You need to make sure that you have the right partnership for another company, whatever it is, Databricks or whatever, for the ML. Because you are, especially if you are wanting to really push the envelope, you need to have an ecosystem that is really supporting you.
And I think it's been a fantastic. One thing which we really liked in our relationship was because of the very candid discussion on a weekly basis in terms of what's moving, what's not moving, being very straightforward in terms of things which are not moving well. So discussion was always focused on, okay, things are moving well, but don't talk about that. Talk about things which are not going well so that we can fix it faster. The parallel processing is very key, I think, and it gets more complex because human mind is kind of tuned to sequential processing. And we all love to say that, okay, let's build the lake or let's build the platform, then let's do this, then let's do this. But the point is that you don't know what you're getting into. If you can keep building in sequential manner, you may land up after 1 year by doing something which may not be as valuable as you thought initially. And that's the reason what we decided was let's do a parallel. We call it dual velocity. That's a word we normally use, saying, one side you crank up the engine for foundation work, create the foundation. Other one is to start talking to the business and start building the use cases in parallel.
Which means also many times that you create a staging environment in the cloud where you move the data just for specific use case, which is, again, really truly in parallel to the normal migration, to the program and so on. It's not just easy to say I work in parallel. You need to create as well also an infrastructure. And many times as well also the team. The people that are going to make the migration are totally different from the data scientists and the data engineering that you need to have to make this kind of use case. So it's the thinking of working in parallel. It's really an investment, and is an investment in people, technology, and process. Totally different process when you start thinking about the backlog of the use case and so on.
It leads me to ask another question which is important about, and you did mention that earlier, is about talent, right? So, and talent is not easy. Like I was reading one of the reports recently with this new survey. It says that 69% of the chief data analytics officers still feel that the talent expertise around data science, machine learning is still scarce. That's their feeling. That's the feeling they have, that we don't have enough that we want it to be in our company. So, we had a similar discussion here as well, and I will ask Francesco to comment. But there's also talent about business readiness as well, like whether business is ready as well. And I think you touched base on that topic. But any reflection on those 2 points about, how do you feel about the last 2 years of talent discovery and, your strategy to build the talent?
Well, so first of all, you all know that the scarcity of and the war, frankly, to attract talent in this moment is incredible. Each of us, I think, in the company, we have so many vacancies, and we are really working hard to attract the talent and to engage the talent. What has changed is, I remember that I hired 2 years ago, after 3 or 4 months after the lockdown, I hired my CTO. And I hired him without any in-person meeting, fully online. That was my first experience 3 months after the lockdown. And that's, if I go back to that moment, I would say, wow, that has been quite a big change, first of all, because many times we have been hiring for the last 2 years people without never seeing them. Yeah. And I think it's a quite big change. The second one is there is definitely scarcity of resources, but especially in the data space. In the data space, my data and product, my experience is telling us that unfortunately it's not enough to have just data scientists, generic data scientists, or it's not enough just to have product manager, because everybody says I go in the market. There is a massive difference if I need you to be a product manager for pharmacy with a pharmacy expertise, with a specific domain expertise, or a data scientist with healthcare. Because you have a completely different environment where there are rules, then the element of clinical trial, the element of data encryption, you need to be PCI IEPA compliant, iTrust compliant, and so on. So it's a massive difference. And to the point that we are also having a little bit of different strategy, which is a mix. How do we also go within the function where there is a subject matter expertise, try to understand are the people that have a kind of skill set that we can train to be a data scientist? On the other hand, I hire data scientists, but I need to train them. So the reality is that I need really to make sure that I have a very, very strong onboarding and training program, because it takes several months to have a person that is at the level of productivity that we need with the domain expertise. So my watch out here and the biggest learning is that it's very easy to say I go and find a product manager or data scientist, but don't assume that the productivity is right away if they don't have the domain expertise, and you need to build that. I think it takes time, it takes investment.
And I think we are seeing the same thing. So we have a lot of data scientists in Accenture. We started building the practice long back. In our company, like 8-9 years back, there was a dedicated effort to build data scientists. We actually have multiple locations. One of our European locations, not one of, a few of European locations are very famous for the colleges which are in like statistics colleges and mathematics colleges, where we source people from. But we also felt that I keep calling them a generic data scientist.
Yes.
You need them, like definitely.
You need,
but you don't need. But they can't translate the value. It's become very hard unless you know the domain and the industry which you operate in. Because just to kind of identify a use case and be closer to the use case, you need that understanding of the business. So if you get the people who actually understand the domain and they convert themselves into data science, or even if you're a data scientist but you started spending more time in a domain for like 5-6 years, you really become the person that actually is able to appreciate business and have a dialogue and generate that confidence in the business that you can trust the system and we will give you something which could be useful for you. So,
I also think, and probably this is important, at least has been one of the mistakes that personally I did, is that a lot of focus on data scientist and a lot of focus on product manager, and probably not enough focus on the engineering side. It has been always, and probably because of all the time when the engineers were always a commodity, developers and so on. The reality is that the engineering in this kind of world are extremely important and crucial, both engineering for product and data engineering. And I think it's a muscle that we need to definitely develop in-house, as well also the process of very good engineering, quality engineering as well, and controls. I think it's a very important, and I believe that is as difficult as for the data scientist to really hire very, very good engineer and data engineer.
Yeah. So, and what's your, let me ask this question because we had a discussion a few months back, but how is the return to office going now? I mean, are you getting people back to office? Is the connection getting reestablished? Or?
I think this is one of the most difficult parts. So right now we have a hybrid policy, which means flexibility for the employee to decide if they want, how many days they want to be in the office, how many days they want to be remote. It's clear though that the employee, they want to have flexibility, and I think it's good to give them flexibility. On the other hand, I think it's important as well to start recreating those moments where we are all together in a room, where, especially when we have team meetings, town halls, but also the design thinking session, that kind of creative moment where we need really to solve a problem. So the answer is that is not going well. Probably, I don't even remember the statistic, probably it's going to be 25%. But more important, what we are trying to do is we are trying to create event where we say for that couple of days or 1 day a week, let's try to be collocated in the office because we want to continue creating this element of team spirit, stricter collaboration. But it's clear that we need to give flexibility to the people as well. It's a long journey. And the most important part is that we are being clear with the employee that we don't know what is going to be the future. We don't know. And I think we're being clear to say this is for the time being, but let's keep having the dialogue and let's try to learn and then we adjust. Because we see now that, for example, unfortunately, with this couple of new variants, the number of cases is increasing. So are we start thinking about we need to go back to mask and so on. So it's not a rule that is written in the stone and we are not going to change because we have to learn this is a new way to operate and to work.
Yep, and I think in our business also, because we are a people-centric business, we have more than 700,000 people in our company, so it's really big in terms of people. Like from any private institution, I think we are probably in the first 2 or 3 companies in the world with so many people. Yeah, maybe the second largest probably, because I know only one company which is probably bigger than us. So employees which are really that level of that quantity of employees. And in our business, it's not a staff; it's actually a more knowledge worker. So.
I think it's different because we also have 300,000 plus. But the majority are in the store. They need to be in the store, they need to open the store, and we need to ensure the safety of the people in the store. So there has been also a lot of protocols, safety, how we sanitize the device. So it seems ridiculous, but the PIN pad, the one where you digit with the credit card, our failure rate during COVID increased drastically because of the sanitation. Cost millions to replace more frequently because of we need to ensure safety of the patient, of the customer, patients of the team member. Sanitation was very, very frequently. That's the reason why we give the swab as well, the possibility to use the swab on the PIN pad. But these are the kind of problem as well that we face. That unfortunately are not AI solvable, but.
And I'm assuming many of us have seen that, right, in our daily experiences.
Yeah. You have seen every retailer trying to define different things, giving the swab, putting a little bit of foil on top. But this is the kind of problem we were facing to ensure we could have the best experience possible to you guys.
So shifting the gear.
Yeah.
Right. We have talked about, so far we have talked about saying that how important it is to ensure that the investment is tied up to the business strategy. We talked about the journey and the challenges around the data platforming and how complex it could be. We briefly touched about the talent, but I think let's move to the value.
Yes.
Piece, if you may, Francesco, and I think so there's a lot of work going on in creating value in Walgreens across various functions. So it's not about just one function. Because many companies, as I would have mentioned earlier, there are most of the AI innovators, not the achievers, are the ones where they have focused on one department or one function, saying, let's go behind one. And just let's focus on one, because that's where the maximum value of the investment would be coming from. For example, one of my clients is in life sciences in Europe, and they're global clients. They're majorly a European company, but a global European company. And they consciously decided 5 years back that they're going to focus only on R&D, and big way, like they are the master of innovation in R&D. Their CEO only talks about AI in social media. That's how he himself is a scientist, right? And the CEO, right? The CEO talks about him. So they are very focused on that. They're very advanced in that space. But when you talk to them about their other departments like HR, they talked about other finance department, you talked about them about the commercial department, they're still not there at that level of maturity as they are in the R&D, because that's where they invested first for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. But in this case, I think I will let Francesco talk about, but we are doing a work across different functions, obviously at different level of maturity depending on when the work got started, but the use cases are across the enterprise, and that was the reason why Francesco wanted to build the enterprise level of a platform so that you can use the data effectively across multiple functions in the organization. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, and you can have a repeatable solutions across the patch. So just wanted to ask you, Francesco, what is the biggest value you are drawing right now from data and AI, and plus what is the potential also going forward?
I think that, first of all, I think it starts with a clear vision that we set in IT, that was AI is transformational for the future. So everything that we're going to do in the future is going to be based for AI. So forget about the process, yes, also digital customer journey and so on, but the really big element of differentiation is that how you leverage AI to make sure that you have whatever optimized experience and solution. So starting from that, the key message has been, we have an incredible asset, which is the data. We have been one of the companies that really have data for everything. Now, therefore, the expectation has been, if the vision is that AI is going to be across, let's make sure that we really embed AI in everything that we are doing, in every project, in every initiative. Let's really to see, can we identify use case that we really see and make a difference, always through a benefits lens. Therefore, we have AI in forecasting, which is most the traditional one, inventory management and so on. We have AI, for example, in price optimization. Dynamic pricing is done through AI. Dynamic markdown is done through AI. We are moving now in the promotion. The personalization, when you are in the app, your experience is personalized based on you as a customer. Based on your profile, we also show the promotion based on what you have done before, the one that we believe, based on your profile, are more relevant. So for example, in the, as I said, in the pharmacy space, in the medical adherence, incredible work on the AI there for the brain on the optimization of the work for the pharmacists. We have AI in the micro-fulfillment center. We do central dispensing through robotic and AI. So instead of having a dispensing of the pill in the pharmacy, we have, through a company that we acquired, we are doing artificial intelligence and optimization of the flow for the dispensing really as in a central environment. This is just an example across all the areas. The focus for us has been really to make sure that we have clear use case with measurable KPI. Because the most difficult thing is when you say, what's the benefits I'm not able to measure? But really to go back to, do I see a difference? And then you can have a different technique, like I have a control store to see when I use AI, when I don't use AI. I have for example, in some categories you use AI and some not in product to make forecasting. But unfortunately, there is a lot of work to prove that AI works. And what are the benefits? So the measurement system is as important as everything else. And that's why you have to bring along as well also finance with you, and thinking totally different in the way we measure benefits, and go to identify the primary KPI, secondary KPI that allow us to measure the benefits.
And that's exactly. I think now we discuss about the use cases. Use cases are also around, like Francesco was saying about giving more visibility and transparency to the business function leaders. Use cases are, for example, like we have a use case on single view of finance, right?
Yes.
And on the working capital reduction, right, as a value. So
working capital reduction because optimization on how we do inventory management. And if you start in a company that has billion in inventory and you start really applying totally different way of moving between fast moving, less moving, how you do the rotation, how you do automatic replenishment and return of inventory through machine learning, the benefits are in the 100 million.
So I think that so we keep on thinking about this, and now what is the value AI can produce? So think about very simply, the first thing is just the visibility of information to the business operation leaders could be a big value because they know more than they ever knew in the past, right? So they can take informed decisions, right? The second thing is automation of the process itself,
and also speed. So
yeah.
automation, cost reduction, and speed.
Yeah.
And frankly, at a certain point also, you can do more versus the other, and you are in control. So that is one of the key one. And there is a very, very thin line between what you develop in-house and what you get through a package, because there is a lot of AI that you can get externally when you get a package. But also there are specific where are so differentiating that you want to develop in-house. So for example, for us, we are a pharmacy retailer. We have a business which is very clear, which is what we call front of the store, the grocery, where you can find grocery, vitamins, cough colds, but also shampoo and so on. And then you have the pharmacy business. So for the front of the store, are we differentiating for others? No. Can I really say that I can get a product that does forecasting and replenishment based on AI? I can work with the partners? The answer is yes. When I go in the pharmacy, well, market leader is Walgreens. The second one is CVS. All the others are very, very small, independent, and so on. So I don't find a product. What is differentiating for me is that how I manage that. Therefore, that's where I need to invest my resources to build that. And so this is as well also quite important as well also how you decide where buy and where build, because at the end we go back to the scarcity of resources. You don't want to spread all your talent across all the area, but you really want to make sure that you focus them on the area that are more differentiating for you.
Yeah. So again, going back to just putting it back into the framework, usually, every company wants to invest in this space because of simple reasons. Either you can get a top line growth, you increase your revenue stream, or you increase customer engagement, which can again increase your top line, or you generate efficiencies because ultimately it can lead to a profitability improvement in your company. Or other things like what Francesco was saying, compliance. Compliance could be a very big thing because regulations are there, regulators are there. So you need to just make sure that you are always ready. So you need systems which are real-time, more dynamic systems to give them what they need from a compliance perspective. But at the end of the day, if you look at the systems are either providing you better information, or systems which are automating your process, because then it happens. The third thing is very difficult, and I want to talk and touch base on that one because that's a very interesting item for Walgreens, and that not many companies have done that, right? So we know many companies are in this leg of the first two, but the third one is more complex, where you start actually understanding data. And once you understand data, you can figure out a way to create new business models.
Yeah.
And that requires a super C-suite discussion, because it requires a very strategic discussion for a company. It also requires innovative mindset in a company. So both innovative and strategic mindset. And I wanted to ask Francesco, because you have multiple things going on there, but one of the things which is very interesting could be the clinical trial business. So if you want to talk a little bit of that.
So couple definitely. So first of all, data is an asset. Is an incredible asset, and how you can monetize value out of data, I think it's definitely an alternate revenue stream. So, for example, definitely, if you have a presence on Walgreens.com, if you have a presence in the mobile app on Boots.com, there is a possibility of optimization of media when you offer to other companies, and that's you through AI. You start defining as well also what is the tools that start explaining what is the potential revenue upstream and so on. And we are really building a totally separate division, which is Walgreens Media or Boots Media, which is similar to what other retailers have done, Walmart, Kroger, 8451, and so on. So the other one is actually in the pharmacy business, and which has two dimensions. The first one is also, honestly, to make sure that we keep working through the improvement of the health of the population, and the second one is also you create a revenue stream. We have it's very important for the pharmaceutical company, for example, but also for the insurance company to keep going faster in the market with new product, with new drugs, and lower the cost of care. And to do those two things, there is a fundamental element that is super important, which is the knowledge of the customer and the patient, and the reaction to drugs and all the clinical history of these patients. And as I said, you have to consider that we dispense about 1 billion of prescriptions per year. So we know, basically, we have an incredible amount of data about the customer, so the patient in this case. Also because, unfortunately, in terms of the population, an incredible amount of population has either one chronic condition or multi-chronic condition. So several people are so lucky in their life that they go to the pharmacist once just because they need an antibiotics, but the reality is that in the pharmacy we have so many patients that have auto-refill. They have really a relation with the pharmacist, and we have years of history about those patients. And this is an incredible value for the pharmaceutical company that will accelerate their possibility. And then as well also, for example, for the insurance company in terms of how we can help and guide the patients through the best selection on the insurance plan based on the history, so that they lower the value of the care, the cost of the care. So what we are really creating is capability of insight for this either pharmaceutical or for insurance company, so that they can get the value of our knowledge. Of course, then it's done all in the respect because we don't share the data, the information is all anonymous and so on. So it's really in pattern and insight, respecting privacy, security, and so on. But that is what we launch. Clinical trials as a solution we launched, I think, 1 month ago or so. And there's been as well also another incredible experience on how we have been building on the foundation of having the data lake in cloud, and then building on top the solution for the insight that can be accessed in this case as a solution. In this case was for the pharmaceutical business.
So, I mean, there could be multiple, but I think that's where the maturity comes in. Once you get mature, you can have those ideas which can generate a new revenue stream, and that's not easy for many companies, especially if they're not a digital native companies like the ones which you normally are aware of, right? So any of the enterprises, I mean, for them, they have to really think out of the box completely to come out with this kind of solutions. So let me, I think we'd had a good discussion on multiple. We can keep talking, but I think I'm looking at the watch. And I thought it made sense to just open the house and ask for your questions or comments, and then we can wrap up later. Right? Please.
Hi,
Dharmesh.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about the clinical trials and the business model behind it and the revenue stream? Because that's intriguing, right? Walgreens jumping into that business. So maybe speak to that a little deeper.
I think it's more in terms of, again, how you connect with a pharmaceutical company to provide them specific data that can help them on a specific pathology. So you want to understand, you are working on developing a specific drugs on I don't know, diabetes or whatever, and so you want to have more data regarding what is the pattern And so that you define some certain analytics that you can define, you can provide to the company based on your pool of data. Clearly, if you have a pool of data of 100 million, you definitely will have some statistic relevant information.
It can help in candidate selection, the consumer behavior.
Exactly, you define a pattern and so on.
By the way, great presentation, very enlightening to hear the journey. You shared a lot about the process and methodologies, but can you share a little bit more about the technology stack that you guys used and the decisions along the way? That would be something helpful to understand as well.
Yeah. So first of all, we started from all possible technologies. So you name one, we had data in Teradata, data in Hadoop, data in Netezza, whatever. I think probably so that was totally disparate. We are mainly an Azure shop. So our definition has been, okay, we move into the Azure data lake. And since we are very, very strong in both, and we are in the two worlds of still data warehouse and machine learning, we are putting on top snowflakes for the data warehouse and Databricks. So this is very high level, the biggest technologies that we have. Of course, then we have all the other elements around. Because we need still to have the acceleration of the consumption through data warehouse, where Snowflake, I think, is very strong. But also we need to create an environment for the data scientists. That's where we are leveraging Databricks. And we felt that other technologies like Synapse were not at the level of managing our data. So we use for very simple use case, but not for bigger volume, we have to go to Snowflake. Speed and scalability. For us, is scalability.
I mean, readiness of the products as well. I think software as well, but largely the principle has been to simplify the structure so that total cost of ownership can be managed more appropriately. But then in this world, I don't think you can have one technology doing everything. It's not very hard to do it in this world, but you can reduce the number of technologies.
Yes, we would aim to really go either way. But in this moment, I don't think that there is one single technology that does both the data warehouse and the machine learning or the AI. And still, when you migrate for a legacy, you have a lot as well of data warehousing.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your insightful session. I'm Guru Prasad, representing Data Robot. I have a question for both of you. I want to double click on that aspect that you mentioned where you have to carry finance along with it. How do you justify the budgets for your finance? And my follow-on question to that is, how do you typically allocate, what percentage of your budgets do you allocate for innovation? So I want to hear both from Walgreens and Accenture's perspective.
Okay. Well, I think it's putting more on innovation because we pay back. I think it's also fair.
Yeah, it's also fair. We also bring more innovation to Francesco.
Exactly. So I think it's a win-win. Go ahead.
I think on the so the second one I got. What was the first one? Say it again. Finance question.
No, how do you justify your finance to support you on budget allocation for AI?
Oh, I pay for them. That's easy. I pay for them.
How do we pay for them? So
I pay for them. No, that is the easy answer. I agree because you need to staff up finance differently. And so as part of the business case, actually, I justify in the business case both finance and HR. Because if you create an organization, because in the work that we have done, we have also clearly, and probably we need to talk about this, we have done also a change in the operating model. Because many times you have people doing analytics report all over. So we have built an operating model where we say we want to have a concept of federated hub and spoke. So there is an hub that is strong in IT where we really wanted to do machine learning operation. We want to do creation of standard report analysis and to have a core of data scientists that are really the ones that are the most advanced to do the most difficult things. But the innovation should be, and data scientists should be decentralized across on the different functions so that we have this kind of model. But we have created this operating model, and we have done this together with Sanjeev organization, where we have introduced a new job family, 21 job family. So really to make sure that we identify, because the first assessment that we did is how many data scientists? We went with, I don't know, we had 200, 300 data scientists. Because everybody is cool and they say, what do you do? I'm data scientist. Nobody's going to say I'm an analyst. Yeah. He's going to say I'm data scientist. I mean, it's and then when we went there and say, and you make a click down, you realize you don't have them. So we really made an incredible job of understanding all the jobs, really the skill set, building the job family of the future, and then start mapping the people. To do this, and we create a business case for it and so on, simplifying as well also the external spend through a much more disciplined strategic sourcing. We went to the point of saying, okay, to do this, I need to have definitely not only an organization of scientists, engineers, and so on, but I need to have a stronger HR partners because I need to change everything, and I need to have not traditional HR, but an HR that is really much more specialized in this kind of skill set, and therefore also finance. So that's the way we approach it.
And I think in our case, it's pretty simple. I think we are a services organization. So our unit of service or product is pretty simple. Like we don't have products to sell, right? We just provide our services to the clients. And we invest a lot. Like we invest huge part of our cash into innovation and into people, because people is our main asset, frankly. So from finance angle, I think every year this is right now we'll be talking about this cycle when we're getting the budgets for next year. So it's a right timely question, but the important question is the finance gives money to us when we show profitability. Simple, right? So there's a mathematical model around that in terms of how you can increase the profitability, because if you give us money, then they're expecting, the expectations, not finance, the CEO's expectation is basically that, or a chief strategy officer's expectation is to make sure that we are able to generate more value from less. As simple as that, right? So the profitability comes in picture. That's a very good metric to go after. So if you ask for $100 million today and you ask for $200 million next year, you need to make sure that you are, if you're asking that, what are you going to give back to the firm in terms of real bottom line impact? In terms of investment innovation, I think we do innovation, major investment innovation. For example, special alliances on innovation. We have studios where we actually really invest in our clients to kind of help them innovate, and this is done as a part of our investment in the clients. We, as a company, we don't have any sales force actually, and never have been, but we have been growing very fast, as you can capture us in the media and public earnings calls, right? We have been a super successful company, and that is largely because we really build long-term relationship with our clients. That's our strategy, which means you need to really invest in the clients to actually help them understand that you have a skin in the game.
Let them not pay. Yeah, he's going to invest.
Yeah. so
I'm helping you. It's all good.
And on the people, I think there's a big investment in there. So innovation for the people. So you need to build a culture of innovation so people feel that they're in the right company and they want to stay in that company for long, right? And on the client side, you need to have a client innovation. So think from two lenses: client innovation and a people innovation. So, yeah. Okay. If there's no other question, then I would, one more question, and then I'll land with the concluding remarks, right? So.
It was very interesting. Thank you very much. Can you a little bit share with us the C-suite, sponsorship, resistance, how much this domain is important for them today and maybe for the future? Can you share your experience and the overall readiness from business side?
Yeah, well. Yes. No, in general, so first of all, in general, I think they are extremely supportive. Extremely supportive, as I said, because there is so much buzz in the news around that everybody is hearing about the machine learning, importance of the data as an asset, and there are enough, as well, use point, a data point that tells that. Having said that, I think there is a big difference versus the sponsorship high level and say, hey, it's cool, versus many times when you start shifting the thinking from, okay, let's build product. Let's start building really what we call the single view of customer or single view of finance, and then we start announcing it and we bring along things, versus, okay, now I need to have a reporting for finance, and then I need another report. So it's, I don't think the issue is the sponsorship, it's to make sure that we make it tangible for them what you deliver. Because the concept of a product, and you keep enhancing it, many times you got the question that says, so when is going to finish? Or when I'm going to have it completely done? And the answer should be never. And if you make never, you say, oh my God. So what we are doing and what we are created, it's in the spirit of educating, we are creating what we call the customer experience meeting. So what we are, it's really showcasing the functionality. So as much as we can, we showcase the functionality about the experience, we showcase the functionality about analytics, because we need to make sure that from the high-level sponsorship, we make it tangible what you are really developing, and that is the bridge that we are trying to close.
And I think so. Let me just I can in interest of time. I think we are seeing massive conversation right now from the C-suite in just in terms of understanding what exactly is this. And I think we love that, because the more and more people at the top level will start spending time, they will figure out themselves how to exploit it as well. So that's my way of thinking. Like if you're not interested, you will not spend time. If you not spend time, you're not going to think what next. So the journey starts from the time when you actually are curious to know something new, right? So that curiosity is already started at the top level. They really want to know. So I've personally done a lot of immersion sessions for the board members, which means I just explain them AI in the terms of a layman so that they can understand. Some of the board members are very sharp. They ask more detailed questions saying, oh, so tell me what is neural network and how does it actually work and why it works like this, like why it can't be. Is it a software program? It's something else. Like what is the science behind this? So, they are very curious to know what it does. And then they're really curious to know what examples are there in their peer industry or other industries. In fact, a lot of clients actually ask not about their industry, because they know fairly well about their own industries, because they're very senior people. They ask about other industries, saying that what is happening in mining, for example, and so that they can take example from efficiency, which is there in those industries, because they are asset-based industries, and they're much more sharper in figuring out efficiencies versus the consumer-based industries.
And I think also one of the topics that is coming more and more in the board and the C-suite is about ethic AI. So how to make sure that you have an AI that doesn't create bias, doesn't create discrimination, and that's, I think, is becoming more and more, especially when you start touching your interaction and a solution versus the customer, the patient, and so on. Because when you are doing AI related to forecasting or inventory management, who cares, is your staff. When you start creating algorithms that can influence the behavior of the company towards the consumer or the customer, then how do you make sure that you ensure that there are no discrimination, no bias? So, and for example, what we have created is a council, at least where we have privacy, legal, and so on, where we are trying to go through all these thematics. It doesn't mean that we have figured it out, but it's clear that it is a subject that is becoming more and more important and relevant to consider.
So time is up. I'm just going to close with the last question. Is it okay?
Quick. Quick.
So the question which I have is to just ask Francesco, like how do you see, or what makes you most excited about the future in the next couple of years for yourself and in this journey?
Well, I think is the possibility of transformation and how we can change the way we work and they operate. I think that retail has started a transformation several years ago in terms of how we put the customer at the center. And I think there is an opportunity to do something similar in healthcare. Healthcare in the US is extremely complex between payer, insurer, pharmacy, and primary care. And I think this is definitely a key opportunity for WBA in terms of how we wanted to pivot in healthcare and making sure that we start defining consumer-centric solutions that allow the patient to lower his care cost. So
Thank you very
I think
much.
is huge based on data.
I think that's what we are looking. So thank you very much, and
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you for being here.
Thank you all.
And thank you for coming over, Francesco.